Hi Pradumna, hi Divyansh.
Hey,
Hi.
hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, nice.
Hi Arman. Okay, let's wait for a few minutes to so that more folks can join in. And meanwhile, we can start with our introductions. I'm Susmita, a software developer passionate about open source communities and hackathons. Currently, trying to explore a little bit of Docker and design stuffs. And today, organizing this space on Docker extension, which is a upcoming trend right now, with Pradumna. Pradumna, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Is my voice getting echoed? Okay,
A little bit.
not sure why it is happening. Okay, so hey, I am Pradumna. I'm from India, of course. I'm a developer at Lifecycle, and I talk about DevOps and open source, post content as well on Twitter and LinkedIn, and also I write blog. So yeah, excited for today's space and uh, looking forward to hearing more people about the Docker ecosystem and what they're building on top of that. Yeah.
Hey Aman, hey Vishwadi. Can you guys one by one just request to speak and start with your introductions, please?
I think we can continue if people want to speak up, they will request for the mic. Yeah. Are you there?
Yes, someone requested Arman. Hi Arman.
Hello. With my voice, actually, I'm like currently I'm riding, or I'm not or there is something. Otherwise, please sorry for that. Actually, I'm just learning about the things like space, and right now I'm working here in a courier company. So just I'm what I say like transition. मतलब एक दूसरे से चेंज कर रहा हूँ फेज अपना so things are going on and just here I come to learn new things from you people. Hope I'm audible. There is no much disturbance.
Are you there, Susmita?
Yes,
Yeah, I mean,
I guess we can start.
yeah, this is what I'm saying. We can have a conversation and then invite people on the way.
Yeah, sure. You may go ahead.
So, I thought you have some questions. Okay. So, yeah, of course, like the Docker extensions, like if you are using Docker Desktop, so there's a new thing in this ecosystem which is Docker extension. So you have extensions. So it's just like VS Code extensions, but it's a little bit different. It is centric to Docker ecosystem. Means like if you're running a Docker Compose application or Docker application, you can use those extension to do lots of stuff. For example, you can use extension to check the monitoring. You can use those extension to share your application remotely, and there are lots of things like you have different extension in VS Code to do different stuff. It's same in the Docker ecosystem. There's lots of extension to do different stuff. For example, there's a MongoDB extension, or there's a Prometheus extension, and recently we launched our own extension. This is why we are also hosting the space. I will share that on the top. So also yeah, that's about it. Like if you are using Docker Desktop, you already have that extension feature, and you can go into the marketplace or extension marketplace and use or install whatever extension you are according to your needs. So yeah, over to you, Shushmita. Yeah. Are you there?
Yes, so let's talk about how lifecycle is helpful as a Docker extension and how it can affect a developer or like a person who is new to Docker. Like,
So,
is it easy to use or is it too heavy to use?
so it's like so if you are running a Docker Compose applications, of course you need some experience with the Docker, of course. So let me give an overview about lifecycle extensions. So whenever you are developing an application locally, so there's always a pain point where you share your work with other team members. For example, if I am working with a person X, so it's right now it's really hard to share your work because you have to push to GitHub and they pull those changes locally and what is it, then test out the changes. But the problem we are trying to solve is like removing this whole tedious process and making it much more easier to gather the feedback and collaborate. So with the extension, like you just run your compose application, Docker compose application of course, and you turn on your Docker extension, lifecycle Docker extension, and you get a switch or toggle, anything you can say. So when you turn on the toggle, you get a URL, which is not the localhost URL. It is a universal URL which you can share with your teammates, your colleague or friend, and they can access that application. They can, for example, if you have a website with the UI, they can see that UI. So it's kind of tunneling thing. If you heard about tunneling thing, like you tunnel your local host to a publicly available URL. So we are doing tunneling, and on top of that, we are doing some collaboration things. So you have this remote terminal. You can access the terminal remotely. You have access to the logs remotely. Right now, it's really painful. For example, if someone is debugging on Zoom call or Google Meet, so they want to see the logs or they want to type some commands. So it's really hard right now. Like people dictate, okay, just type this command, type that command, send the screenshot of this log. So we are trying to minimize this gap by doing this. So yeah, that's an overview of the extension, and I have shared a link of that thing in the top. You can have a look. Also, we are running a giveaway. So if you try our extension. So share your feedback, and we are running a giveaway for PS5. So yeah, that was an overview of the lifecycle extension. Yeah.
Okay, so I should ask about the security practices, obviously, because what security practices does that Docker extension brings to the table, and how does it contribute to the overall functionality? Like when a newbie is using, like a person who is new to DevOps, just like me, won't be knowing so much stuff going on behind the hood, like under the hood, right? So a person should be careful about what's going on and what they should do and what not.
So are you asking? Sorry, yeah, I was asking like, are you asking security as a
Yeah.
like lifecycle extension or the as a whole?
Security in general and also security with the life cycle extension.
So I completely didn't get the question, but about the lifecycle extension. So we use the tunneling. So we have this SSH. So it is industry standard. So of course it is secure, and your URLs, the preview URLs I mentioned, the tunneling URL, you get the HTTPS one. So both are secured, of course. And if you talk about this, as you mentioned, one more thing about this beginner thing, like how beginner can use this thing. So if you are from DevOps, like we have this Prometheus and this Grafana uh, monitoring services, like those help you monitor your pods. Like pods are it's a Kubernetes system, so you have services and pods. So right now you have to write everything with those kind of configuration. But one thing I noticed with the extension, it's really easy to use Prometheus just by installing the extension if you are running Docker. So I think a lot of DevOps stuff, which was only limited to DevOps, can now also be used by the developers. So I see in a different way now. Lots of DevOps tools can be easily used by developers. So you don't need to completely write the YAML configuration or those stuff. So yeah, in this manner, if you can say from a developer centric, it's really good. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, tell me more about how how you ever made this life cycle extension. I know it's a big thing I'm asking, but yeah, just an overview, like how the idea came up and how all this started that we should have a Docker extension, and then how it could be helpful and all this.
So yes, so talking about yeah, yes, talking about the lifecycle extension. So it's not like a single offering from lifecycle. So it's not like that we build a lifecycle extension. It's like we are solving an issue. Like, so we have like our open source CLI which do the same thing. We have a SaaS product which also do the same thing, like reducing the gap of the feedback cycle and this collaboration thing. So it's just an extra or one more entry point to reduce this thing. For example, if in future we think, okay, VS Code extension will be really good for this same kind of issue and solving this issue, we'll of course build the VS Code extension. So this extension idea pops in because many, like, of course, like many people are not really good at many stuff, like, so, and some people are very good with the UI stuff. So previously we have this CLI, so many people was not able to use that CLI. We thought, okay, let's change the game a little bit, let's turn that dial into in a different direction. So this is why we came up with this extension. And another reason is, like, if you use any other R offering, so when you share those URLs, those get deployed into the cloud. You need cloud credentials like AWS, GCP, Azure, or Kubernetes cluster. But with this, like with this doc extension, everything runs locally. Means like you don't need to have to access to the cloud or anything. So if you are a new person, you don't need to pay for anything. You can simply use this extension from the day one. But other offerings need cloud credential and everything. So this is the two reason we thought, okay, first let's create a mechanism to share the local host thing. Like local host, we of course we work on local host. Our projects works on local host. So we first thought of this, and second thought was like, okay, how to involve more people which don't have cloud credential and everything. So getting them the point to get started, and then move with our other offerings, like with the paid one or the cloud one. So this is the reason we came up with this. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Do you have a community for life cycle, like where people can discuss about the Docker extension, and if someone needs help about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. We, not I, we have a community. We have a Slack community of Lifecycle, so that people can actually report the bugs and everything. Because of course, with the dev tools, there's a lots of bug coming around because people are using it in different way. And when you are working with Docker, there's a more expectation of bug because people have different needs in their different applications. So I will share that link on the top. So it's community.lifecycle.io. So you will land um, into the lifecycle Slack with this thing. But yeah, we are very open to feedback, and for sure, like, of course, we get bugs, and we know that. And I think Krish also recently reported some bugs on the lifecycle Slack. So thank you, Krish, for that. And if you want to jump on the stage, feel free to. Yeah, it's not like that. We just talking about the lifecycle and Docker extension. We can talk about anything in the Docker ecosystem and DevOps ecosystem for sure.
Yeah, I know Krish, and Krish is a master in finding bugs.
Yeah, I think yes, for sure. And I think Krish was trying to use a product, I think SaaS product, so he encountered some bugs. So yeah, like of course, feedback is always important because this is how you iterate and improve. Yeah.
And you were talking about some collaborations. Like, may I know about it? Like between them.
Yeah, this is a really good thing. Yeah. So right now, if you talk about development cycle, which we call it software development life cycle, so there is very vague kind of collaboration. So people collaborate on Slack DMs, or people collaborate on Zoom calls or something like that. So there is no proper mechanism where people can actually have a really good conversation. So this is why we thought, like, there are two missing factors in this software development life cycle. Means like when you develop a software and you finally you able to change it to production. So there are two major issue with that, with the feedback cycle. So inside the software development life cycle, you have this feedback cycle where you write your code and get feedback with your team. So there was two issues. First was the ability to share work, which we done by using the tunneling, and second was a collaboration between the players mean the developers or the teammates. So this is why when you share the URL, you get an if you have seen some kind of thing like some floating pointers, pens, and those kind of things. So we add those so that you can mark those things. Okay, this website UI does not look good here, because right now you send a screenshot, correct? You don't have any good mechanism. So we added the pointers, markers, or some text box, so you can actually give the feedback. And like for example, you have 10 collaborators and all 10 collaborators can see those feedback. Right now people share those feedback in the DM, and only two parties, like the person who is sending the DM and the person who is receiving the DM, can only see that feedback. So we are making this thing, we are trying to do it more transparent so that other people who are involved in that software development life cycle, and sometimes we only think developer are only involved. No, designers, marketers, strategists also are involved. So in this manner we can also involve the non-coding part of the people, so trying to make it more inclusive side of things. Like, okay, because right now they can't run, like marketer, they can't run the all thing in locally because they don't have that expertise, but they can easily go to a URL and see those things. Hope you got the gist, like why this collaboration is really important.
Yeah, yeah. Wish, Arman, Shan, and anyone, would you like? Do you have any questions, and would you like to come up? Yes, no. Anyways, we can talk about something like learning curve. Learning curve in the case, uh, if I think about the life cycle Docker extension only, like, do you have any guide or proper tutorials for a beginner to start?
Yeah, of course. Sorry for the echo. You can visit the lifecycle, what to say, lifecycle Twitter handle, and you will find a link to the all the links. And we have a YouTube channel, and we also are trying to revamp our docs as well, so that of course a lot of people love docs, a lot of people use video content, so we are trying to tap into different ways. So of course, so we have this tutorial and we have a full-fledged doc, so if anyone is really new to the extension ecosystem, they can easily get started. So trying to make the docs as beginner friendly as possible. And of course, feel free to share your feedback if you have any, because always love the feedback, because when you are in your own zone, it's really hard to gather that feedback. So yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's nice. Hey, Shivang, Pradumna, can we do something like, can we talk about the recent any new trends about Docker extension other than lifecycle?
For sure. I think let's not just talk about the Docker and everything. Let's
Yeah.
talk your voice. I think an issue from your side. I was saying let's talk in very in general. This is not just talking marketing about lifecycle. We are just talking about Docker and extension ecosystem. Of course, we can go ahead with talk about DevOps, open source in general. Of course, anything in general. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about something like what is a Docker extension? Like, what are the new trends in Docker extension, and how a beginner who is learning Docker can and start with it.
I think I covered this. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. I covered and the begin. Yeah. Okay. Other than life cycle, are there any Docker extension currently going on trend right now?
Uh, yes. Can you mute your mic? Let me just go to my page. Yeah. So of course, I was saying, like, of course, like it's just not about the lifecycle extension. So there are lots of good extension. If you remember, I mentioned one couple of things. It depends on what are your use case. So as you remember, I mentioned about the Prometheus and this kind of monitoring services. So right now, you if you want to use this kind of tooling, you have to install the full-fledged CLI and everything. But if you just install the extension, you can access those pretty quickly. Just click of buttons and you can access Prometheus and everything. So and other services, for example, if you work with DDoSify, which help you test what is a loading of this thing, like how much your like when you get DDoS attack, correct? So this is for load testing thing. So those have now have extension, and now a lot of things. Like if you remember, we if you have used the portainer, so you have to install the portainer in your Docker container, and you have the CLI to do that. Now you don't need to do that stuff. You can just go to the Docker desktop, go to the extension marketplace, search for portainer, and just click install, and you have portainer on the go. So yeah, there are lots of extension coming, and there are lots of DB extension, like database extension. So you have extension from different database providers. Apart from that, you have a lot of extension from cloud providers as well. I'm seeing recently, and of course, there are some like tons of extension. There's no limit. And if you are into security kind of things, so you have a really good extension on this. If you heard of Snake is used to scan the images when you build images, so just to find the vulnerabilities and everything. So Snick has his own extension. Of course, Docker also come up with their own Docker Scout. So of course, so yeah, a lot of action. I think it depends what you want to achieve with, but of course, just check out the marketplace and you will find a lot of extension, and just try out a couple of them. It doesn't matter like you're trying out lifecycle or nothing. Just try out a couple of them and see what works for you. For me personally, lifecycle, a couple of MongoDB one, and some security one. Sometimes I use a DDoSify, and another one I use, which is I forgot the name. There's a company which used to draw the stuff. So they have the website. They are pretty famous, pretty popular on the Twitter as well. So yeah, I will when I will remember, then I will just post it. So they have extension as well. For example, White is good. So when you are traveling and when you don't have the internet connection, so you can just run that extension and draw your stuff and just download it. So that is a crazy thing for me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, do you know, or can you give me an overview of how to make a Docker extension?
So it is little bit off the rails, but I will say because I haven't built one, but so far my team they have SDK, so you have a proper set of files. So the way I understand is like you need to create a Docker file. So sorry, you need to create a Docker file and you need an Docker image. So this is really cool that every extension you see on the marketplace has a image behind that. So I think Docker extension marketplace place fetch somehow fetch those images. I think there's a some guidelines for that. I think Docker documentation contains those things. You can check out that. So those Docker what is it? Extension marketplace fetch those Docker images and they list according to that. So your inside of your Docker image, you have some filing and images and logos. So yeah. So I think that is there is a SDK to build that. So yeah, that is how you build the Docker extension. And you can check out the full-fledged documentation in the Docker docs. So I think it's docs.docker.com. So yeah.
Okay, got it. Krish, Shivang, would you like to come up on stage and speak of something?
By the way, just want to mention one thing. Like, its Docker extension is not something very unique. No, nothing. So you have, I think most of people have used a VS Code, correct? So we have the extension marketplace in VS Code, and so what is the difference between a VS Code marketplace and Docker extension marketplace? So VS Code is a very general marketplace where you have different extension for different users. So we have like Postman, what is a extension, or GitHub Copilot, and there are tons of extension like we use on the like Mongo, Kubernetes, Docker, everything has extension. So those are in general thing. Like it doesn't matter according to your tech stack. It is not just for not specific to your tech stack. But if you talk about the Docker extension ecosystem or Docker extension marketplace, which you get on the Docker desktop, it's a little bit niche because it is centric to Docker ecosystem. So the thing you used to do on the containers, like as I mentioned, these Prometheus or what to say, container, you have to run a different container to use those things. Docker reduce that pain point, which is used just by doing this extension thing. So yeah, this was the what to say, very high overview difference between a VS Code or other extension versus Docker extension.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty it. If anyone wants to join in, feel free to. And yeah, otherwise we will wrap up this space in a few minutes.
Anyone wants to come in and say something?
Hello. Uh,
Yeah, hi.
my question is not related to Docker. Actually, I wanted to ask some questions. Actually, it's personal. I'm not not such kind of personal. Related to tech. So actually, as I said, I'm currently working in a courier company, and there were some issues because of that. In my graduation period, or my when I'm going to complete graduation in 2024. So in between, there is a 3 year difference. I mean, 3 year gap between my the actual what is to be or when I am completing the graduation. So and the second thing, uh, I am not completing my graduation with like any technical background. So how both these things will impact in further tech career?
Your voice is not very clear, Arman. If you are able to write the question or speak it a little bit louder, then it's
Yeah,
possible to.
I'm trying to make it louder. Actually, there is a career gap. There is a career gap of around 3 years in my graduation. And the next question is, I am not a tech, I mean, I'm not a graduate of any uh, like what with the background of technology. I mean, I graduating with the political science. So how the both things will impact in my career?
That is a really good question. Of course, I will not go too deep into like this. You can mute your mic. I will answer that.
Yeah,
So of course, this space is not about the career advice, but about the first thing, about the career gap. I also have a career gap of 2.5 years, so I don't think it matters. But yeah, some places it matters. But if you are looking for remote or some good companies like which hire you based on the skill set, they don't care because what they care is like of course your projects and contributions like open source and other things like in the community, of course. And if you talk about the course like BBA or BCA or something like that. So personally, I haven't pursued PTech. I'm just from BCA background and talking about non-technical background. So I got it. So my a lot of people in the community are from the BCom background and they are doing crazy good. Like we have Vanshika and there are lots of people like you can search Vanshika Srivastava. She's really doing good in the Web3 space. She's not from the what is it tech background, so she's a career switcher, and I think a lots of people like Julia and everything, a lots are career switchers. So it doesn't matter like when you have a really good skill set and that like when your skill set and contribution gets so higher, so these things start to fade away, so no one cares about them. So yeah, so feel free to just work on your skill set and that's it. So yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can speak. Yeah, you have the okay. By mistake, you have raised hand.
yeah, yeah. No, no. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Actually, I was driving. Things are going miss. Sorry. Thank you.
No, no worries. There's a question. Yeah, yeah, go ahead, Sushmita.
No, no, you guys go ahead.
Yeah, there is a question from if you can jump on the stage struggling dev, it will be more better. But yeah, I will try to read your question. Just like that life cycle docker extension, there are other extensions as well. Is there any particular limit to that number of docker extension that can be used? So you mean use multiple those kind of extension? I think that is your question, correct? Like you have if you are listening the question, just give 100 emojis so that I can understand your question better. So like you mean like how is you are able to use multiple extension which works like similar way. I think of course you can use it matters on you, but I think our extension is a little bit different because every other extension which use a tunneling thing just use a tunneling thing like sharing the work, but none of them have the collaboration thing which we are building a collaboration layer. So yeah, but you can use hundreds of tools, of course, like it's not like that. So like in the VS code you have similar kind of extension you use for 10 different things, but all do the same work. Like for example Postman or there are some open source tools as well, so used for API testing. So you use 10 different tools to do the same thing. So there's no limitation. Of course, you can use them any number of. Yeah, thanks for that question. To be honest, yeah. Of course, I think. Okay, let me bring a person who is. Yeah, Harsh. Okay, before I let Harsh speak, I have pinned a what is it tweet on the top. So there are two tweets, of course, like linked to the community, and there is a we are running a giveaway like PS5, like just to try a life cycle extension. And yeah, do check out that, and yeah, let me know if you have any feedbacks on something like that. Feel free to uh, share on the Slack. Of course, I don't recommend DM because those get lost. So there's a community link, you can drop them. Yeah, go ahead, Harsh, take away the mic and yeah.
I actually accidentally clicked on the mic icon, but okay. I'll be there in the speaker section if I'll have questions.
Okay, okay, not an issue, not an issue. Okay, I see there's one more request, Kalyan. I have bring you on the stage. Yeah, go ahead, Kalyan. Are you there,
Yeah,
Kalyan?
hello, and sorry for the interruption. I think it was my unmute. Is my voice is audible?
Yeah, yeah, you are clearly audible. You can speak or share
Yes.
whatever.
Actually, this is my first day and to join this community, and thank you for allowing me to introduce myself. And so, actually, I'm a network engineer in the ICMR in the Hyderabad, and recently I'm looking for the DevOps engineer. So, I was experienced in the Terraform and Azure cloud native platforms. So that's about me, and thank you for allowing me to introduce myself. So because I'm here because of growing network and collaborate with the people and learning with it together. So that's my intention here.
Hi, Pradyum.
Yeah.
Uh, just wanted to ask, uh, what kind of IDP is life cycle, right? Like it to me, like going with seeing like in the first glance, I could say that it seems to me like having a live share with a Docker Compose on. But please go ahead and enlighten me. What's this?
So, so you want the gist of the whole working of the extension thing?
Like yes, because this project sounds quite interesting to me, and like it feels like something I was building for myself.
Okay.
So
Let me bring back you the story which I tell in few minutes back. Uh, Recently we in life cycle and figure out two things. Like there's a two issues with this whole SDLC software development life cycle. In the software development life cycle, there's a feedback cycle. So in the feedback cycle, you have these two issues. First, inability to share your work, which means like you share your work with different people, and inability to collaborate. So there's two things we are trying to solve with this extension. So first is this sharing of work. Of course, we use some basic tunneling. So, but the second thing, which is not getting solved by any of the players, which is the collaboration. So right now, if you talk about any collaboration thing, so people collaborate on. If it will be good if you mute your mic, so you can turn on your mic after that. So yeah. So right now, if you talk about the collaboration, it's very vague. Like people share the DMs or share the screenshot on Slack or on the Google Meet, on the Zoom Meet. So this is the current scenario, correct? So there's a no good way you can have a good log of histories. So and like every player is involved. Every player in the mean, like if you're DMing me, I and you only have the log of that DM. So but how about like 20 people working the team? So how will they know you have talked about this? So there's no transparency. So this kind of a lots of issues, we thought, okay, we need to add a collaboration layer on the top of things. So you have a chat feature, and you have some pencils and markers where you can point, okay, this feature is not good or that feature is not good. So a little bit of more transparency, more inclusivity. And one more thing we thought about, like, what about the other players like marketers, designers, because they don't know coding, how they will how they will run this application in local host, how they will set up the Docker, Kubernetes. It's really hard, correct? So this is why we thought, okay, this shareable URL is a really good thing, and adding us something on top of that is really easy because you can easily share this URL with any of your players, like players in the sense like developer, marketer, because it's easy to access the URL instead of setting the whole thing locally. So yeah, this was the gist why we came up with this, and what are the things happening on that on what are the things happening on the extension. So yeah, collaboration and the sharing of the work. These are the 2 points we are trying to tackle with that. So yeah.
yeah, like that sounds really interesting to me. But like I had a few questions. So
For
how
sure.
does that differ from chat ops? Like many organizations do have a chat ops thing with them. Like you push, you know, you can like issue some command on Slack or on your like if you're using a Git provider like a Bitbucket or GitLab or
So
GitHub.
that is a good question, but
How does
here
that differ from that?
no. The thing is like with about that you mentioned of the ops thing. So this is why we are removing that thing. So in that you have to push the code and do that branching strategy or this kind of correct. This is the strategy behind that.
No,
So
no, no. My question was not specific to that. I think I'm not clear with my question. Let me rephrase it. So, like organizations do have their chat ops thing going on, and at the same time,
what do you mean
did
by chat ops?
okay. So with chat ops, I do mean like the experience that I have had in my past two experiences is that we had a review, and after the review, like we would issue our commands on our Slack channel, and the Jenkins X pipeline would do everything for
Correct.
us.
But here you are involving this whole SDLC, correct? This whole
Right.
pipelining. So we are removing that. Just a minute.
So
So
you are providing everything in
no.
a
Let me give you context. So see this pipelining thing and this other things. So when you want to get feedback, you want to get feedback in a minute, correct? In a minute. So this is how the feedback gets slower, feedback cycle gets much more longer. So this is why we thought, okay, when you need feedback in a minute, you need a feedback in a minute. You can't push to the branch or use this Jenkins pipelining, running the automation or commands, nothing. So it's very in the initial stage, you get the gather the feedback. This is what the process was. Of course, we can use this branching strategies and everything, but this is how we are trying to differentiate between this thing, like chat ops, or you mentioned the Jenkins thing.
Like, but don't we have sorry, not production, developer environments and virtual cluster stuff where developers push their changes and we do all the integration tests and
Correct.
the unit
Wonderful.
tests, and
See,
like
see,
you
see,
have sprint reviews on that. So
see,
how does that differ?
no, I think you. This is another thing I mentioned previously. Those are only used by the developers. Correct? Only developers. There is
No,
no
not
other.
specifically. Not specifically.
No,
I
no,
have.
it is. I think it is like when you are talking about this branching strategy or dev environment or having a specific cloud which hosts your this specific push code, like the test code. Only developers can be playing inside that because they are only capable of running those things. I think no marketers, no visual representatives, and no strategists can run those things. Everyone knows that. There's no way. It's really easy to set up those things. Just, if you ask a marketer just to copy the staging environment test in their local, they can't do that for sure not.
No, so we don't organizations don't generally rely on a local network. Like they do have
I
their
think,
clusters
see,
hosted.
no,
They
no,
do have development
I think,
clusters.
no, no, I think, see, it is not like that. They don't have that. They don't need that. So it is not like that. The current trend is like pushing everything to cloud, but I don't think everything needs that. I think
Hmm.
when you are doing everything, when just get this thing, when you tried a change of button, correct color of button. So,
Hmm.
and why you need to burn your cache just pushing to the cloud and just asking for the feedback? Okay, I push to the branch, sorry, the branch, any strategy, it doesn't matter, like if you're using GitOps or anything, it doesn't matter. So you push to things to your changes and it takes over 5 minutes, then person is pulling the changes or doing anything and then checking out the changes. You can see time consumption as well as money consumption. But if you are able to get gather feedback just sharing that you are in a minute with a local thing and you're not burning a single penny out of that, I think that is win-win. I think we talked with a lot of team and they said, okay, our cost is so much when we talk about the dev environment. They are paying $1,000 like a quarter just for this staging environment and dev environment. Sorry, testing environment.
Oh, now I get it. Is it like that you are eliminating the need
Correct. This is why I'm saying
for
we are just
having a centralized
correct.
development environment, like
Correct.
for
So
small startups?
100%. I think not just small startups. Let me give you a context. I recently visited Bangalore and I met a person, engineering manager. He was saying, okay, I work with a 3,000 person, sorry, what I'm saying, a team of 3,000 workforce. And the crazy thing is the due to this staging environment, like whole pipelining thing, it becomes so much messy and it becomes so much like cost expensive. It's really hard to optimize because now people change a single word and they push to the staging environment, but that does not need the staging environment. Of course they can review if I was able to just check that thing in a minute. So this is why this thing come into picture. Okay, you are able to share your work within a minute and just gather feedback and turn off your environment. That is how simple it is.
That's a
And
really good use case.
no, no, and this is one thing we are adding on top of that recently. So we are also giving you recently adding a feature called deploy to cloud. So for example,
Hmm.
in case you said, okay, I shared my work locally, but I want to keep for example, you can't keep your laptop running for 5 days, correct? Everything is
Hmm.
running locally. So you will get a button, deploy to cloud. And as you click on that button, you have options once you configure your Amazon, what to say, GCP, Azure, or single pod Kubernetes. Those environment get deployed to those things, and you get a permanent URL out of that. So yeah, this is also we are doing that. Like if some a point time you need something more robust for 5, 10, or 20 days, you just do that. But otherwise, it is saving a lot of time and cost. I think this is the common feedback we are gathering. And but see, this is the issue. Like when you are in a zone, when you are in this cloud, okay, everything go through this staging, and so you never think of different tooling or different solutions. But when you think a lot and try to change, then you started realizing, okay, this is a little bit helpful than the previous thing. So yeah, I think it's a change of mindset, it's change shift of the tooling. Correct.
That sounds very interesting to me.
Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's a one request. Thank you so much for your question, but it was really nice talking to you. And I will, okay, Sarthak, I think. Okay, Sarthak, I invited you on the stage. By the way, hello everyone on the what is in the audience. Thank you so much for joining. I see lots of familiar faces. So yeah, Sarthak, take over the mic. And Harsh, if you are willing to like just mute your mic so we don't get the echo voice. Yeah. Hello, are you able to hear me? Okay. Okay, Sarthak has dropped. I think Susmita, we can wind up if anyone's
Yes. Uh, Folks, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to request to speak option and come up on stage and ask your questions.
yeah,
We'll be
Sarthak.
happy to answer.
Yes, Sarthak.
Just I want to need overview of cloud computing and DevOps. Just overview.
So I'm not into cloud computing, but I can give you an overview of DevOps, of course. So very very vague term. I'm saying like you have this development. What to say? This, you can understand it this way: you have a development team and you have an operation team. So there's a huge gap between both of them. So developer team are developing their own stuff, and operation team are operating different stuff. Like they don't have right now. There's a huge gap between them. Like there is no proper timeline to releases. There is no proper time to do the operation stuff, like downtime, everything. So this you can say this whole DevOps came into picture, like just set of practices, or you can say set of good practices or anything. It's a very different people have different opinions. It's very set of practices. So you apply different toolings, like we mentioned Docker and we mentioned Kubernetes, different toolings, and you use different toolings just to solve those issues. For example, if you are facing an issue with your what to say deployment, so you use some CI solutions like GitHub Action or CI Circle. And if your application has a downtime, so you upgrade your application from monolithic to microservices. It is not necessary every time, but like for example, if you understand microservice and monolithic, like monolithic is like when you break your application, for example, DB, what to say, front end, back end into different sections. Easily, I can say in this manner, in sections, different parts. This is where microservices come in. So those are more scalable, those are more robust because those are the single standalone services or standalone containers or anything you can say. So you can easily scale down and up depending on your needs. And if you, of course, you are from India, so you have heard about this. You have faced the CBSE results come in and website get crashed. So might be they are using the monolithic, and they even though they're using microservices, they are not scaling up and down really good manner. So microservices give you lots of what is it grip and lots of stuff because uh, you have a lot of control over the different cycles, like different phases of this DevOps cycle. So yeah, so of course you can have a search DevOps cycle and you can look at the image. So it's an infinity loop. So you have feedback, build, deploy, and testing and everything. So yeah. So yeah, that is how it works. And yeah, one thing is it is here to solve the problem, like as I mentioned, reducing the gap between the development team. And yeah, I think we will take the. Hope I answered your question, Sarkar.
Yes, I got it. Means we can say that if website is crashed due to more people, so it helps in DevOps, helps in that kind of stuff.
No, 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 no. No, I'm not saying that. Of course not. You can not. DevOps is just solving the issue, the gap between the development and operation team. That is the thing DevOps is solving. Nothing else. I'm just saying why people generally introduce DevOps. So DevOps has more. What to say? You deploy to the Vercel, correct? No, and let's forget about the Vercel. You deploy to a server where you just have this standalone application. So if you get lots of load, you're at a point you at the point your application stops running or get what we call it, I forgot the name, so stop running due to a lot of load. But every platform doesn't have the scalability thing. But in the talking about this, the tool which we use in the DevOps like Kubernetes or Docker, it has features where you can scale up or scale down. This is what I'm saying. The DevOps is not about this, but the tools we use in the DevOps help you do that stuff, like what to say uh, looking at monitoring or looking at how your application is performing. I think I mentioned it gives you more grip over your infrastructure, more over your application, so that depending on your use case, depending on your load, depending on your users, you can do a lot of stuff. For example, you have a website called abc.com, and you are running a Christmas event over that. Like a lot of people will join on Christmas. So if you talk about very general application, so you don't have an option, you can scale up or scale down. Yeah, some deployment platform now, couple of platform has, but in the DevOps ecosystem, you can just have this replica set. So you can replicate. It's very understandable term, replica. So for example, one we can say one container, I'm just giving a vague term, one container can take load of 100 people. You can easily scale up to 100 containers, so now you have a load for 10,000 people. So yeah, this is the grip, the tooling in the DevOps script, not the DevOps is, I said, a whole what is it set of good practices. So yeah, I hope now you got the gist.
Yes, got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. yes, we will take the final question and we will end the space here. Yeah.
Hello, Pradumna. Actually, my question was about the clean code. Actually, I'm trying to write my clean code, but not able to define मतलब कि how my code is clean or not. And the next question is कि trying to build something. So read about these things where I have to go use these stuffs or these tags that tags. But while I'm building or writing the code, I forget all these things. So how to come up with all these things?
So about the clean code, I think we all write bad code. So yeah, it's not a one-day thing. Of course, it will improve over time, and I think you don't need to worry about that thing. First, you focus. I am not saying write the bad code from the. I'm not saying write all the bad code, of course, but focus a lot more on learning and building stuff. And you can always optimize your code. Correct? Like you write 50 lines of JavaScript, and you later point of time think, okay, this function might get optimized in 2 lines instead of 5 lines. So this is how you optimize your code and write clean code. And also, if you want to learn a little bit how you write, sorry, what I'm saying, writing the clean code, look at the code bases in the GitHub. You will learn a lot, like how production level or good level code are written. So open source is the best thing if you want to learn a lot of good practices, and good practices about writing the code, indentation, maintaining the code, testing, tons of stuff. So every, like, good projects, like we have a tons of projects, you can just check out the open source. So it will help you scale up in those things. Correct? So we tackle the the clean code thing. And think second about the forgetting the stuff, I also forgot a lot of stuff. So if you talk me right now, I think I have forgot 50% of the Docker commands. So yeah, it's not like that. You can always go back and forth in the documentation, go back and forth in in the in the cheat sheet. So one thing I will recommend you can do, you can have a cheat sheet in the sense you have important things written in one place, so you can go back and forth. So just don't worry, every developers forgot a lot of stuff. So yeah, it's very normal thing. Yeah, I answered about the clean code. Just look at the repositories on the GitHub. You will learn a lot how to write those good clean code. So yeah, but don't worry about that. You will evolve over the time. It's not like you start with a table. So yeah. Yeah, I think Susmita.
Yeah. Struggling dev, I hope you have got the answer of your question. I saw you ask something in the in the tweet, like just like lifecycle Docker extension, there are other extension as well. Is there any particular limit to the number of Docker extensions that can be used? And based on that, I said you that different extensions have different use cases, and there are a lot of Docker extension in the marketplace which you can use. Pradumna, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think the question he asked, like, if sorry, can you mute your mic?
Shall I repeat?
No, no. I said, please, can you mute your mic because my voice is getting echoed.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I was saying, of course, I think the question was like, if I'm using a lifecycle extension, is I will be able to use the same kind of extension. So this was the question, but I answered, of course, you can use that, and it doesn't matter. Like you can in VS Code, I just am comparing with the VS Code to make it much more easy because a lot of people haven't looked at the doc extension. So yeah, of course, you can have 50, 500, or 5,000 extension, doesn't matter. So yeah. So that's the answer.
Okay, I hope that answer your question, struggling dev. And hey, Arindam. So, folks, if you have any questions, just request to speak and let us know. Otherwise, we can wrap up.
Yeah, let's. I think we have no more questions, so let's wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, since no one requested, I think we should wrap up this space. And it was a nice discussion on Docker and Docker extensions. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Oh, wait, someone requested.
Okay, I invited him on the stage, Kalyan. Yeah, you're audible. There's a background noise.
Sorry, one second.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, you
now
can
okay
speak.
now?
Yeah, you can speak.
Yeah, what I'm saying, and I have doubts in the cloud and Azure. And are you able to solve my questions in the Azure cloud? Many times when I back up my data, it asking some latency. In the time of the latency, some downtimes are happens. Is there any how to challenges with the downtime errors?
So one thing is there, like if you remember, I mentioned I don't work a lot with cloud because, of course, I'm not in the cloud section of the DevOps, so I don't deal with the cloud. So one thing I will recommend, you can join couple of communities. There's a community of Cube Simplify, and there are other communities which deals with the cloud. I mean, like they have the channel, separate channel for the cloud, so you can ask question, and there are lots of people. Like it's really good to ask the question in the community because you get a lot more perspective with different people. So do ask this instead of DMing anyone, just ask in the community because sometimes there are lots of more expert like Azure expert or we never know. So yeah, ask in the community. There are lots of community in the cloud space and the cloud native or DevOps space. So yeah.
Yes, thank you. Good to hear. Thank you giving for this reply. And main, I am also focusing on the Docker, which is Docker Compose. And main, I am focusing now, so it is good for my career. That's why I am also focusing on the Docker. And thank you for giving this reply.
Yeah, sure. And of course, I think even though you are not into DevOps and everything, Docker is really
Yes,
good.
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, Susmita, let's wrap up and end this space.
Yeah, we can wrap up. So thank you everyone for joining. See you in some other Twitter space. Bye.